When Anastasia premiered in 1997, it was an instant success and became a childhood staple for many. In the wake of the film's success, Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty, the duo behind the original songs, began pursuing the project as a Broadway musical, with a book by Terrence McNally. But by the time it found its way to the stage, the material had grown into something entirely different. We've kept the best parts of the animated movie, but it really is a new musical, director Darko Treshnik said in a 2015 interview. And he wasn't kidding. 2 years later, when the musical Anastasia opened in April of 2017 at the Broadhurst Theatre, die-hard fans of the 1997 animated film might have been surprised to see this new take on the classic tale. Sure, songs and plotlines had been reworked, and characters had been altered, but the most significant alterations to the material was how it didn't shy away from politics and the impacts of the Russian Revolution. As a direct result of this, the villain of Rasputin, the undead magical zombie that antagonizes Anastasia throughout the 1997 film, was dropped in favor of Gleb Vaganov, a general for the Bolsheviks. So let's journey to the past to see how Anastasia reworked its villain. See what I did there? Welcome to Movie Musical Mania, the channel devoted to sharing a slice of musical cinema with the world. Please subscribe so we can keep discovering together. Let's get into it. Imagine you are 20th Century Fox in the early 1990s. Disney has just come out with hit after hit, starting with The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. Fox wanted in on this lucrative business and to compete with the juggernaut of Disney, so Fox reached out to Don Bluth of Don Bluth Productions. In 1994, he and Gary Goldman signed a deal to produce animated features with 20th Century Fox, the studio putting more than $100 million into constructing a new animation studio. Fox wanted them to adapt an existing property that they already owned. Following several story suggestions, the idea to adapt The Legend of Anastasia stuck, and it was chosen as the first animated feature for 20th Century Fox Animation. The legend, of course, went back 3/4 of a century. In 1918, the Romanov family, the standing Russian imperial family during the Bolshevik takeover, were executed by revolutionaries. The youngest daughter of Tsar Nicholas II, Grand Duchess Anastasia of Russia, was rumored to have escaped and survived. A few years later, an imposter named Anna Anderson claimed to be Anastasia, although, in truth, she was a Polish factory worker that suffered from mental illness, and the real Anastasia was indeed murdered by the Bolsheviks. The legend of Anastasia's survival gained popularity, resulting in a 1956 film starring Ingrid Bergman and our good friend the King. Yul Brynner. It was this work specifically that would be adapted into the animated movie. Early into production, Bluth and Goldman started researching the actual events, and they soon discovered that the real history of Anastasia and the Romanov family was too dark for an animated film, so they decided to rework it into a light, romantic comedy. For the villains, Bluth wanted to stay out of politics and keep mentions of communism to a minimum, which is sensible for a time not far removed from the Cold War. He initially toyed with the idea of a police chief with a vendetta against Anastasia. Instead, they decided to have Rasputin be the villain. In addition to this, Bluth created the idea for Bartok, the albino bat, as a comic sidekick. Goldman explained it was because of all the different things they did to try to destroy Rasputin and what a horrible man he really was. The more it seemed appetizing to make him the villain, Goldman said in an interview with E! News. In reality, Rasputin was an incredibly good friend and consultant of the Romanovs, and worked as a faith healer for their only son, who had hemophilia. Rasputin was seen and disdained by Russians who disliked the influence he had over the family, specifically Nicholas II's wife, Alexandra. He was killed by a band of aristocratic conspirators in 1916, a year and a half before the Romanov family was executed. It turns out Goldman was right about all the alleged different things they did to destroy Rasputin. In addition to a failed assassination attempt, his death, which is shrouded in mystery and rumor, evidently included cyanide poisoning, him being shot, him allegedly getting up after being shot, and then dumped in the river. And just look at this man. He looks like he might come back from the dead. But despite what the animated film shows us, he was never exiled and most likely liked Anastasia very much. The songwriters, Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty, recounted their disappointment at the choice to stray so heavily from historical events. I remember the day clearly where we were in an Aubin-Pain in New York City as we were working on the film, and somebody just throws out this notion, what if Rasputin just rises from the dead and is accompanied by an albino bat? And at that moment in time you realize, oh, it's gonna be that. It's going to move over that way. And it's out of the blue. But you're a hired gun working in Hollywood doing the best you can write a beautiful score, but not having control over your destiny. So, in the finished animated film, Rasputin seeks revenge on Anastasia for being banished by the Romanov family, and he sold his soul for the ability to kill her. He uses magic and is a villain fit for a cartoon. But what about the stage? It is true that when most Disney movies are transferred to the stage, most of the elements of the animated movie are retained, and a few songs are added to pad the runtime. Consider the enchanted objects still present in Beauty and the Beast, which are like 10 times the size in the movie to accommodate human-size actors, or all of the special effects required to make The Little Mermaid work. Anastasia would transfer to the stage with a sense of whimsy, but not fidelity. Gordon Cox writes in Variety, "It was the creative team, made up of Aarons, Flaherty, and playwright Terrence McNally, that, from day one, aimed to differentiate the musical from the movie. McNally, for instance, said he was interested in exploring the real politics of the era, as well as the contrast between the Russian Revolution and the concurrent artistic revolution happening in Paris, where the second act takes place. None of us wanted to do the animated movie," Aaron said. "We wanted to do something that was richer and deeper and more mature. But then we first started previews in Hartford, where the musical had a tryout run before Broadway, and young women would come in with tiaras and blue dresses and the full costume from the film, and we went, oh my god, here they are because they love the movie, but we haven't done the movie." And they were right. They hadn't done the movie. Many things were altered for the stage Anastasia. The songs were shifted around. Dmitri no longer saved Anastasia from the palace, but instead she remembered him from a parade when they were younger. Sophie was now named Lily. But the biggest glaring differences are the musical's new themes. The politics of the Russian Revolution became the main drive of the characters, and even what remained of the animated film had to be adjusted. The song lyrics of A Rumor in St. Petersburg were changed to reflect this, for example. The themes of nationalism and identity were explored in the new song, Stay I Pray You, a heart-wrenching ode to a Russia that the characters love but cannot stay in. The exiled Russian aristocrats vent their frustration in the Act 2 showstopper, The Land of Yesterday. An audience member who is paying attention will notice the irony between the aristocrats' recollection of Imperial Russia as opposed to the common folk like Dmitri, who have had it rough for a long time, as the new song, My Petersburg, demonstrates. The main antagonist for the musical is now Gleb Vaganov, a general for the Bolsheviks. His father is one of the soldiers who shot the Romanovs, and he, as a boy, heard their screams. After developing feelings for Anya, he is sent to track her down and kill her. When finally given the opportunity, he is unable to pull the trigger. Gleb's character explores the complexities of masculinity, honor, and nationalism. He wants to live up to what his country expects of him and honor his family, yet he finds he cannot murder Anastasia. The musical also reminds its audience that a revolution is not, as Gleb claims, a simple thing. Lives are lost, torn apart, and changed forever. He experiences an inner turmoil that is incredibly powerful and much more adult than the Rasputin plot. And indeed, the young fans of the movie were not so young anymore, and these changes could accommodate this growing audience. Rasputin's character was completely cut from the musical, as was his song In the Dark of the Night, but the other 6 songs from the animated film, Journey to the Past, Once Upon a December, A Rumor in St. Petersburg, Paris is the Key to Your Heart, Learn to Do It, and Meant to Be, were retained. Part of the melody in the Dark of the Night was reworked into Stay I Pray You. It is a balancing act trying to acknowledge the fans of the movie and say we know you're in the audience and we care about your experience and memories, and at the same time trying to do something that's stage viable and interesting, said director Darko Treshnik. Both villains are successful in their own right. The magical Rasputin is fun for a children's movie. I just appreciate that the stage writers for Anastasia were able to breathe new life into the legend and place it in its proper political context, with all of the themes that go in tandem with that. There's something to learn here. Fidelity is not always best, and historical considerations, as well as considering what a shifting audience may want, can help a story to grow and succeed. Thank you for watching. This is Movie Musical Mania. Please like and subscribe for more content like this.